Hi guys, in this video I'm gonna teach you how to take a mono signal and make it more stereo. Let's be honest, I know you need this. When you have a mono signal, it's the exact same thing coming at both ears at the same volume at the exact same time. If you want to know the theory around this subject, look up the scientist Haas and the Haas effect. HAAS. What Haas found out is that if you take a signal and you delay one of the sides slightly, so if you have a mono signal and you duplicate it, so you have two tracks of the exact same thing playing, and you delay one of the sides by 10 to 30 milliseconds. If you do this, the brain will recognize that one of the signals is arriving slightly slower at your ears, because we have two ears, and it will detect it as being slightly off to the right or to the left, depending on which one of the sides you've delayed. The big thing about this, and what I want you to take away, is whenever you apply any kind of stereo widening, there's just a smidgen of a chance that when you collapse that mix to mono, the signal using that technique will be lower in perceived volume. I don't want to walk past one of my friends playing my mix through his iPhone and then suddenly realizing that all of my synthesizers have gone away, or all of my acoustic guitars, all of them has completely disappeared when that mix folds into mono. So how do we do this? Let's jump into Logic and I'll show you 3 ways to widen your mono signals into stereo. Hi guys, I've got some tips up my sleeve for widening a mono signal, and I've got a song by Angelo Boltini. Sorry if I butchered the name. It's called This Town and it sounds like this.
Call my name with childlike wonder. I've almost got none. I'm the greatest no longer, and we're getting no younger. I'm hurried to make it, whatever that means. Decided to take part in the machine. I gotta get out of this town. I gotta get out of this.
So not exactly a narrow mix. There's a lot of stereo information going on. And by stereo, I mean, and this is the definition of the difference between mono and stereo. Mono is the exact same signal arriving at the exact same time in the exact same phase relationship at both ears. So if you have a mono signal and it's truly mono, it would be like putting on a pair of headphones or being in an anechoic chamber and having the exact same signal arriving. Now nature has equipped us with 2 ears, which basically means that every time you hear something and it bounces off a wall, you're hearing a stereo signal, and that's why we love stereo. It's because that's how we hear things. 10,000 years ago, when danger arrived on, I don't know, the savannah, and a human being stood there and we needed to be aware of either, I don't know, a lion or an elephant, or in my case, my wife with like a whip, or like, I don't know, heavy artillery. Sorry, babe. We use our ears kind of like radars to pinpoint, is she off, or is my wife off to the left or off to the right? Basically, when you want to widen a mono signal, you have to do this. I have this delightful synth going on. It's a synth patch, and when you look at the waveforms, you can see that it looks stereo. I mean, 2 signals, left, right, must be... Oh, wait a minute. It's the exact same thing. The waveform is exactly the same, which means that if I played, it's just a mono signal. This mono signal is telling my speakers or my headphones, this is what I want you to hear at the exact same time, with the exact same phase relationship. If I want this signal to be wider, I have to change that information. First thing I would do, I would grab a silver verb. And now I say a silver verb like, you have to use the silver verb. No, not at all. I can use whatever delay or reverb plugin that I want to, just as long as I'm able to use both sides independently. And if you're not familiar with Logic, let me just tell you why I have 2 silver verbs. So the first one is 100% dry. And the only thing I needed that for was to go from mono to stereo. So now I have the ability to open up a second silver verb plugin that's dual mono. Here I have to convert the mono signal to a stereo track. This is where the fun begins. Now I have the ability to go between the left side, which for this demonstration, I'll just keep 100% dry. On the right side, I'll do the exact opposite, so I'll make it 100% wet or 100% reverb. And what I'll do, I'll take everything down, the low cut and the high cut, and if this was like a high fidelity track, I wouldn't use a reverb where the highest high cut is 12,000 Hertz. But for this demonstration, it works perfectly. So everything is set, no pre-delay, the size is as small as it'll get. And if I play the track now, without, it's just a mono. With. Now, if you were wearing headphones, you're probably out throwing up because this is like a roller coaster ride. When I put this on, everything seems to whoosh, widen and go outside the speakers. And just to understand what actually is going on, I'm gonna go back to the left side and pull down the dry. So now the only thing we're hearing is the 100% wet reverb. And to my ears, that doesn't sound that different than the dry side. But something is happening. So that's my first trick. Take your mono signal, make it into a stereo track, and by doing so, make one side dry, one side wet. What if we use this trick on a vocal? So I'm just gonna take the exact same tracks and use it on a double track of the vocal. So this is how it sounds.
Halfway there,
Sorry. Without the silver verb trick.
halfway there, I don't have to fake it, shake it. They come
With the trick.
halfway there, I don't have to fake it, shake it. They call my name.
Okay, so it's wide, but it's not reverby, if you catch my drift. So what did I just do? I put a very, very, very short reverb, as short as it'll go, and I don't know this plugin. I don't know what density 0% and size 10 translate into in milliseconds and space, but I can hear that.
Halfway there, I don't have to fake it.
And the most important thing is that when I put on a plugin, this is just a utility plugin that I can use to mono a stereo track. Let's listen to what happens when I pull it into mono.
Halfway there, I don't have to fake it, shake it. They call my name, which I like.
Just remember, whenever you're doing any kind of widening, this is gonna be the problem. So if I wanted the lead singer to be really, really wide, instead of using this technique,
Halfway there, I don't have to.
when I pull it into mono, instead of using this technique, I can hear that the two signals are rubbing against each other, the dry vocal and the reverbed vocal. So even though we don't perceive the reverb as being, reverby, you can hear that it's doing something.
Halfway there.
And of course it's doing something because the definition of stereo is a difference in the two signals that arrive at our ears.
Halfway there, I don't have to fake it.
So if I just go back to my synth, my prediction is that it's not gonna be as big of a problem. This is back on the synth track. Nice and wide. But what happens when I press the mono button? Without all of the processing, with it and monoed. Because it's a synth track, it's not that important. So what we just figured out, and this is just the first trick, we figured out that this perhaps might not be the best way to widen a vocal. My next trick is basically the same thing, but instead of a reverb, I'm gonna use a tape delay. And just to keep it damn simple. I'm still doing the exact same thing. I'm using a plugin like the Silververb or any plugin that lets me go from mono to stereo. On the left side of this plugin, I'm just gonna go 100% dry. On the right side, bring down the feedback, bring up the wetness, bring down the time in milliseconds, no smoothing, a little bit of flutter and a little bit of rate, and I'm just gonna go 100% on the LFO. And the LFO in this case in the modulation means that now we're not just modulating in time, but also phase. So this is the synth without.
Halfway.
I was lying. This is the synth without. And this is the synth with the effect. So now not only do we have stereo information, we have stereo movement. And that's because of the LFO being 0.02 Hertz. Hertz is basically, you know, fluctuation over time. But what if I push the mono button? I'm a guitar player. I've heard this sound before because I have had phase pedals, I've had flanger pedals on my pedal board for like, I don't know, 20 years. And this is the sound of chorusing, of flanging, of phasing, modulation in phase and time. I can do one more thing. On the wet side, I can use the Haas effect and keep my millisecond delay of the right side between 10, 12 and 30, 35-ish seconds. And this is the effect I get without the mono signal. Even wider, right? And when I push the mono button, for some reason, with no delay time and the mono button pushed in, it sounds a lot more phasey. When I go 18 milliseconds, what I do is I'm delaying the right side slightly. So instead of having the two signals, one being modulated, I have two signals, but one being delayed 18 milliseconds, still modulating. So some of the phasiness goes away when I use both techniques, a delay in milliseconds and phasing. So if you want to be more mono compatible, you have to keep your modulation and your delay in milliseconds and not just rely on either one, because most of the guys I see using the Haas effect do not use any kind of fluctuation or phasing. So this is just a delay in 18 milliseconds. Cool, no problem there. But listen to what happens when I bring in just a little bit of modulation. It's just a whole different beast. I'm gonna bring it back to my vocal. The addition of milliseconds to the phase rubbing is actually better on vocals. So this is the vocal without the mono button pushed, but with the tape delay, having both 18 milliseconds delay and the phasing.
Halfway there, I don't have to fake it, shake it. They call my name with childlike wonder. I've almost got none. I'm the great.
With the mono button.
Halfway there, I don't have to fake it, shake it. They call my name with childlike wonder. I've almost got none. Now
to my ears, that sounds a lot more pleasing than just using, oh, sorry, wrong side, than just using 0 milliseconds and a lot of modulation. Listen to that.
Halfway there, I don't have to fake it.
Now you can clearly hear how the vocal feels like it's been run through a flanger. But if I add to the delay just the 18 milliseconds, let's go 22 just for snits and giggles.
Halfway there, I don't have to fake it, shake it, they call my name.
So basically, for me, that's the best way of widening a vocal. And this is not using stuff like I have the micro shift, which is also very pleasing.
Halfway there, I don't have to fake it, shake it, they call my name. With childlike wonder, I've almost gone none.
But remember, this is a paid plugin. I don't know, $50. That's just a guess. But just listen when I turn it into mono, it's using the same techniques and therefore it has the same inherent problems.
Halfway there, I don't have to fake it, shake it, they call my name.
And the last thing I wanted to talk about, it's basically just me begging you to mind your bottom end whenever you're trying to widen a signal. This is why I've set up my basses like this. Without, with, without, with. So what's happening? I've sent the basses to this chorus, and I've actually stolen this preset from guy from Disclosure. And this is the magic sauce. Mind your goddamn low end. This low cut, this low cut. This is the chorus effect with just a ton of bottom end in it. This is a low cut on the return channel with the chorus. Without the low cut, which means basically a ton of basses without. This is the soloed return from the bass sent into the chorus. So what we're listening to now is just the chorus effect. With the low cut, without it. Now, as we've seen before, it can be kind of hard for human hearing to detect what is actually happening when we are in the 10 to 30, 40 seconds harsh effect window. And that's why when I played this before with the bass, the original bass in, we were not able to exactly to hear there's some smearing going on, but what is it? Well, it's this. Without. Basically, you can see I'm from like, I don't know, 180 and to just before 2K. That's what I'm getting spread. This is the drums, percussion, and the bass. Listen to what the chorus actually, what it does on the bass. I'll exaggerate. Without. With. And this is clearly overdone. But if I overdo it, play the same thing, but without the low cut, listen to, and you're gonna need headphones for this. Now on its own, you could actually, I wouldn't be surprised if some of you said that they actually like this, but just bear in mind that when you put this amount of phased low end into a mix, you're gonna battle it down the line. It's just gonna be a mess down the line. So if I put the low cut back in, it's much nicer to listen to. So guys, this is my takeaway. Mind your low end, use both harsh effects in milliseconds, and try to see if you could get some kind of modulation in there, because the modulation actually battles the negative effect that came when I hit the mono button. That's it. Take care. Remember, subscribe, and all the other things that I know you're not gonna do. But take care. Champ!